You know, most founders spend months building products nobody asked for, then wonder why nobody buys them. The world you're building and rewards learning speed, not hidden effort. But most people confuse activity with progress. By the end of this video, you will understand why most startups fail not because they can't build a product, but because they build the wrong product. You will learn the build, measure, learn feedback loop that replaces months of hidden work with days of validated learning. You will discover what a minimum viable product really means and why most founders get it wrong. And you will walk away with a framework for knowing when to pivot and when to persevere. Welcome to the CEO Brain Library High Signal. Briefs for leaders with no time to waste. Because here's the truth that separates successful founders from the ones who waste years in stealth mode. The only way to win is to learn faster than everyone else. Let's get into it. For decades, the traditional approach to building a company was simple. Write a business plan, raise money, build in secret, launch with a bang. It sounds logical. It's also disastrous. Studies show that 70 to 90% of startups fail. Not because of bad technology, not because of weak teams, because they built something nobody wanted. Ries lived this failure. He was a co-founder of a startup called IMVU. They built a product they thought was brilliant. They spent months in stealth mode. When they launched, nobody cared. But instead of giving up, they changed their approach. They invented a new methodology. That methodology became the lean startup, and it has since been adopted by companies from Dropbox to General Electric. This is your CEO brief on the lean startup by Ries. The playbook for building products people actually want. The core of the lean startup is deceptively simple. It's a feedback loop called build, measure, learn. Here's how it works. First, build a minimum viable product, the smallest thing that lets you start learning. Second, measure how customers actually respond, not how you hope they'll respond, what they actually do. Third, learn from the data. Should you pivot? Should you persevere? What's the next experiment? Then you repeat thy loop, faster and faster. The contrast. The traditional approach builds in secret for months, then launches, then discovers too late that nobody wants it. The lean approach builds something tiny, measures immediately, learns, adjusts, builds again. The evidence. Dropbox didn't start by building their complex file syncing technology. They made a 3-minute video explaining how it would work. Thousands of people signed up for the beta overnight. They validated demand before writing a single line of production code. The lesson for you? Every feature, every product, every marketing campaign. Ask yourself, what's the fastest way to run this through the build, measure, learn loop? If it takes longer than a week to learn something, you're moving too slowly. The most misunderstood concept in the lean startup is the MVP. Most founders think MVP means a crappy version of the final product. That's wrong. An MVP is the smallest thing you can build. That lets you start though. Build, measure, learn loop. Not the smallest thing that works. The smallest thing that teaches you something. What MVP is not an excuse for bad quality. A product you're embarrassed to show. Something you'll throw away. What MVP is? A learning vehicle. The fastest path to customer feedback. The beginning of iteration, not the end. The evidence. Zappos founder Nick Swinmurn wanted to test if people would buy shoes online. He didn't build a warehouse or an inventory system. He went to a local shoe store, took photos of their shoes, posted them online, and bought the shoes from the store when someone ordered. His MVP was a website with no inventory. It taught him everything he needed to know. The lesson for you? Before you build anything, ask, what's the simplest version that teaches us something real? If you're spending months on features nobody asked for, you're not being lean. You're being wasteful. Traditional companies measure success with vanity metrics. How many website visits? How many downloads? How many social media followers? These numbers feel good. They also mean nothing. Ries argues for something different. Validated learning. Validated learning is progress demonstrated through real customer behavior. Vanity metrics versus actionable metrics. Vanity metrics go up and down randomly. They don't tell you what to do next. Actionable metrics have clear cause and effect. They tell you exactly what to change. The example. A startup launches a new feature. Download spike. Everyone celebrates. But if nobody uses the feature after the first day, the download spike was vanity. Validated learning would measure retention. What percentage of users still use the feature after 30 days? The lesson for you? Audit your metrics. Which ones actually help you make decisions? Which ones just make you feel good? Kill the vanity metrics. Track only what teaches you something. If you can't explain how a metric leads to a decision, stop tracking it. The hardest decision every founder faces is knowing when to change direction. Ries calls this pivot or persevere. A pivot is a structured course correction. You keep what you've learned. You change the product, the customer, or the business model. Perseverance is staying the course, doubling down on what's working. The problem? Most founders do neither. They drift. They add features without direction. They hope something will work. The framework. Set a cadence for the pivot or persevere decision. Every month. Every 6 weeks. On a schedule. Gather your data. Review your validated learning. Then make a clear decision. Pivot. Change something fundamental. Persevere. Keep going with more intensity. The evidence. YouTube started as a video dating site. Nobody used it. They pivoted to any video uploads. The rest is history. Slack started as a gaming company. The game failed. But the internal communication tool they built for themselves? That was the real product. They pivoted. The lesson for you? Schedule your next pivot or persevere meeting today. Put it on the calendar. When the day comes, be honest. Are you making progress? Or are you just hoping? Hope is not a strategy. Data is. Traditional accounting tracks money. Innovation accounting tracks learning. Ries created this framework so startups could measure progress even before they have revenue. 3 levels of innovation accounting. First, establish a baseline. Run an MVP. Measure where you are today. This is your starting point. Second, tune the engine. Run experiments to improve your metrics. Change one thing at a time. Measure the impact. Third, pivot or persevere. If you're making progress, persevere. If you're stuck, pivot. Why this matters? Without innovation accounting, founders fool themselves. They work hard. They feel busy. They have no idea if they're making progress. With innovation accounting, you know exactly where you stand. You can see if your experiments are working. You can make decisions with confidence. The lesson for you? Choose one metric that matters for your business right now. Not revenue. Not downloads. A behavior metric, retention, engagement, repeat purchase. Establish your baseline. Run one experiment this week to improve it. Measure the result. That's innovation accounting. And it works. 3 things you can do this week. First, run one MVP. Identify a feature or product you've been planning to build. Ask, what's the smallest version that teaches us something? Build that. Not the full thing. The tiny version. Get it in front of customers this week. Second, audit your metrics. List every metric you track. Next to each, write, does this lead to a decision? If the answer is no, stop tracking it. Replace it with one actionable metric that tells you what to do next. Third, schedule your pivot or persevere meeting. Block 2 hours on your calendar for 6 weeks from today. Label it pivot or persevere. When the day comes, review your validated learning. Make a clear decision. No drifting. Let's lock this in. 1. Build, measure, learn. Build small. Measure what happens. Learn. Repeat faster. 2. The MVP is a learning vehicle, not a crappy product. Build the smallest thing that teaches you something real. 3. Validated learning beats vanity metrics. Track only what leads to decisions. 4. Pivot or persevere on a schedule. No drifting. No hoping. Clear decisions based on data. 5. Innovation accounting tracks progress before revenue, baseline, experiments, learnings, brief complete, and go learn faster. The old way says build in secret, launch with a bang, hope for the best. The lean way says learn faster than everyone else. Build small, measure honestly, pivot when needed. That's how you build what people actually want. Now, out of all of the lessons in this brief, which one will you implement first? Let us know in the comments. And as a reward for those of you watching until the very end, here's your well-deserved bonus. The lean methodology works because it aligns with how reality actually operates. You cannot predict what customers want. You can only test, learn, and adapt. The companies that win aren't the ones with the best initial idea. They're the ones that learn the fastest. So stop guessing. Start testing. This is the CEO Brain Library High Signal Briefs for leaders with no time to waste. If this landed, subscribe. Next episode: How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Leadership, persuasion, and relationships that last. Learn why people don't buy from the smartest person. They buy from the person they trust. Until next time, build, measure, learn, repeat.